Hello and welcome to Peerlyst Community TV. I'm Frank Olhurst, your host today, and we're going to talk about the threat of ransomware. My guest expert is Hal Lonas, CTO at WebRoot, but we're not going to hold that against him. Hal is an expert in malware and more specifically ransomware, and he's going to offer us some sage advice on how to deal with that ever-growing threat. Hi Hal, thanks for joining us today.
Hi Frank, thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Can you explain to me exactly what damage ransomware does?
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. You know, in dollar terms, there was about $1.5 million in ransomware exploits reported last year, but you know, we got to think it was way larger than that in actual cases. So it's becoming very big in terms of dollar damage. Businesses are reporting ransomware now. In terms of what damage it actually does physically is it encrypts files on your computer and requires you to pay money to unencrypt them to the bad guys. So they're holding your files and your data ransom.
Wow. How is this ransomware spreading? I mean, how are people getting infected by this ransomware?
Yeah, you know, it's the usual suspects, right? So it's emails that carry a bad payload. A lot of it has to do with social engineering. So the emails will convince you that, you've got a package waiting for you at UPS that you didn't pick up or an inheritance you can claim. So they work on social engineering angles to convince you to open an attachment to an email or visit a bad website. And once you do that, the ransomware installs and does its dirty work. So it's the usual social engineering plus ransomware taking on new forms and new form factors that get it onto your mobile and computer devices.
So that Nigerian prince doesn't really want to be my friend?
No, you're right. That the Nigerian prince is probably an okay guy, but that email was generated by a bad guy that is going to try to get you to click on something.
So, beyond the regular common sense approach of, looking at what's in your email, which, most end users kind of take for granted what's in there is something that they want. How do you mitigate against this?
Yeah, a couple different things. One is user education, which we just touched on. Another one is to make sure that your computer systems, like your operating system and your browsers, are fully up to date and patched, because the operating system vendors like Microsoft and others find the exploits and then they defend against them. We just need to make sure we install the patches. Beyond that, everyone should run security software like that from WebRoot, which protects your PCs and your mobile devices from the bad guys. So even if you click on it, we can catch it and say, hey, you shouldn't go there. You don't want to go there. That's a high-risk website or a high-risk attachment that you're opening. So we can protect you a number of different ways.
Very good. What I found interesting is I read recently that some government agencies, I believe some small police departments, actually were held up by ransomware. And they had to pay the ransom to get their systems back online. Was that the only way that they were able to solve the problem? Was it too late at that point in time?
Yeah, that's right. It is too late. That's a great point. And the problems can be undone, but at great expense. So, just like, the criminals are smart and they figure out that it's probably cheaper to pay the ransom than it is to decrypt your software and data again. And so I read the same thing. You're absolutely right. Businesses and individuals are choosing to pay the ransom rather than try to find a technical fix, which would be very expensive.
Now, as I've seen software out there that I guess amounts to like fake antivirus software or something like that. Is that actually considered ransomware as well?
It can be. Once it installs on your machine, if it encrypts your files and then demands ransom to get your files back, then we classify it as ransomware. The fake antivirus and, of course, a number of other different kinds of malware take different forms. And so, they may exploit your machine for other reasons, like to become part of a command and control botnet or be part of a zombie list that's doing somebody else's bidding. But that is one infection vector, certainly, is the fake antivirus scareware that prompts you to install it.
Yeah, that is a scary problem, because I think many end users can be confused by that when a message pops up saying oh, your machine's not fully protected. Click here.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think that's one of the social engineering aspects that they use, right? Is the greed and also the fear factor, right? Another one is the IRS has found you in arrears on your taxes, right? And you have to click here to solve the problem, right? So a number of different ways, and I always tell people that if you suddenly feel greedy, like you might get a gain from something, or you suddenly feel fearful, that it should be cause for alarm that somebody may be trying to exploit you in some way.
Very good, very good. I guess the next thing I can ask you, beyond educating the end users appropriately, is there any other best practices, things that the folks in our audience, the security professionals, can do to prevent ransomware?
Yeah, I think we touched on user education, having the systems patched and updated, fully up to date, and then running real quality antivirus or security endpoint software to make sure you're protected. And that endpoint software should include a cloud protection component, and you should also ask questions like, does that company who's providing your antivirus software, your endpoint security software, do they use things like advanced machine learning, threat detection to find the threats? Because frankly, they're just too numerous and too hard to find these days with human researchers and human protection. So you really need advanced machine learning, big data, industrial strength tools to find and solve these problems.
All right, that sounds like very sage advice. Thanks for that information, Hal, and thanks for joining us today. That's about all the time that we have for today. You have any other closing thoughts?
My pleasure, Frank, and thanks for having me on. I think, as always, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So, I think we all need to be remember that advice and be careful out there on the internet.
Very good. Thanks again, and thanks everyone for watching. Those seeking more information on ransomware and how to prevent it and get rid of it should take a look at our blogs on Peerlyst.com, visit the WebRoot product page, and be sure to follow Hal on the site. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Frank.